let's say you repeal health care. That's the first thing you do, day one. What do you do day two to move towards a balanced budget? What do you cut?
Well, there's two things you do. First of all, you cut. Second, though, you grow the economy. The first thing
what do you cut?
You want a long list of things to cut. You don't increase spending.
I think Republicans are going to have a chance to put up or shut up. I'm just not hearing a lot of specifics. And if they go out there and just talk about growing the economy instead of cutting the federal government's the expansive scope, after criticizing Barack Obama for being a socialist, then they have no credibility.
Okay. Yes. We're not that mean, only when we're in L.A. And 6 a.m. is actually 3 a.m. That was Joe back in April challenging Illinois Republican Congressman Aaron Schocks to give his list of budget cuts. And he's back here with us in Washington. Do you want to be more specific today?
Yeah, Congressman. We've offered up, there's always going to need to be a long list of cuts if we're going to right-size the ship.
What?
But it starts with $1 million here and $1 million there. And before you know it, as my predecessor Everett Dirksen once said, you're talking real money.
Yeah.
And so we offered this week a proposal on the House floor to do away with the stimulus signs that you're seeing pop up all over the country. Our estimates are that so far this year, in the last year, we've spent close to $20 million on the signs. Those are on the construction projects alone. We don't know what we've spent on police vehicles. Fire vehicles are required to put on the emblem and the logos as well, but that's taken out of the money that we send to them, so there's really a hard way to account for that. But it goes to what the president asked for a year ago. After his first cabinet meeting, he said, I'm calling on my cabinet officials to bring forward $100 million in cuts.
Okay.
And some people said,
what would you
of
cut?
Unnecessary spending. The president said, bring forward unnecessary spending. And so I would submit, while it's not $1 billion, it's $20 million, and it's a good start. $20 million is 1/5 of what the president asked for.
The deficit is $1.4 trillion. $10,000 million.
Sure.
I mean, this is peanuts, isn't it?
Well, as the president said a year ago, $100 million is a good start. And so, look, would I like to cut more? Absolutely. But I think it's hard to defend when there's record unemployment, when there's 25% unemployment in the construction industry alone, to be spending stimulus construction dollars on signs instead of building bridges and roads.
All right, I want to bring Matt By in here, so hold on one second. But also a couple of things to take note of. Breaking news that we put across the bottom here. BP saying they are encouraged by the tests. Of course, the gushing oil has been at least stopped for a little bit of time, as they've got a cap on it. They're not sure they're going to be able to keep it there. There's no sign, they're saying, of an underground leak, and they're encouraged by the testing that they're doing right now. Let's hold on to hope there as the White House and BP try and manage expectations, because this is definitely not completely over yet. Also, U.S. consumer prices falling by for the third straight month, a sign the economy edging forward a little bit. Now, with us, Matt By from the New York Times as well on the set with us, who writes this: if Mr. Obama has so consistently cast himself as the populist scourge of corporate abusers, then why does so much of the popular anger seem to be directed at him instead? There is something more fundamental going on here, an underlying shift in the meaning of American populism. Today's only viable brand of populism is not principally about the struggling worker versus his corporate master. It is about the individual versus the institution, not only business, but also government and large media and elite universities as well. Matt, welcome. You're touching on some of the sentiments, though, that have us in a state of, what was the word my father used? Malaise earlier today.
Are we bringing back malaise?
Oh, good Lord. I'm trying not to. My dad brought back a 1920 jacket and malaise.
It's new to a new generation anyway. It's a dated idea of populism, I think, on the Democratic side, which is why it doesn't really work, and a lot of Democrats don't know why, because they keep talking about the fat cats, as the president put it, in business, and the sort of oppression of the worker. And to a lot of Americans, it's not corporate America anymore, it's institutions. It's large institutions that exercise a tremendous amount of control and influence in the society, and chief among those institutions is government. And people like Pat spent a long time persuading Americans that government was the most oppressive
But I
institution.
think you're right. I mean, they seem to be frozen in a mindset of the 1930s. A lot of Democrats do. But, you know, Ron Brownstein had a very good point. He said they took in mainly white voters. He said white working class voters, the old Reagan Democrats, they do not trust any big institution. They don't trust the banks. They don't trust the corporations. They don't trust government. They were asked, who do you trust? And they said, nobody.
Well,
is that true in your district,
I think this is a really important insight, because I think that's not just true of white working class voters. I think it's true pretty much across the board.
It's particularly true among younger voters. I mean, this is the defining characteristic of Americans, President Obama's age and younger, is as the congressman I hope will attest, is the distrust of large institutions. Why not? Baseball's mired in steroids. The Catholic Church is mired in scandal. We have grown up in the era after Watergate and after Vietnam with a tremendous suspicion of the institutions that our parents held very dear.
Aaron,
Middle America. Peoria doesn't get any more Middle America than that.
Will it play in Peoria? I'll tell you what I'm hearing when I go back home. There's a lot of uncertainty. They don't like it when the president and the administration stands up and vilifies employers. You can't have jobs if you don't have job creators and employers. Later today, I'm going to be meeting with John Boehner, our leader, and Peter Roskam, who's been charged with developing a jobs agenda. We're going to be meeting with the National Independent Business Owners, the Chamber of Commerce folks, Franchise Owners Association, asking them, hey, what do you want to see out of Washington, D.C. to help create jobs? I'll tell you what they want first. They want certainty in the environment. And so much of what we're talking about right now isn't about what we're doing to help create jobs. It's creating uncertainty. The health care bill creates uncertainty in terms of how much it's going to cost to hire employers. The pending cap and trade bill, what's it going to do to my cost of business and increasing my cost to manufacture goods. As an entrepreneur and a former small business owner, I can tell you it's all about risk and reward. And when you're uncertain about the risks going into business before you hire, invest, or buy capital or buy a piece of equipment, if you don't know the rules of engagement, the rules that you're going to have to play by, you don't make the investment. And that's why we're not seeing the jobs created in our country.
Congressman, isn't a real problem there, though, that there isn't a lot of demand? I mean, you're not going to hire people if there's not demand for the goods that you produce or the services you provide. And if that demand were there, I think business people would weigh the uncertainty on one hand and the possibility of making profit on the other hand. And I think they would, they would go with bringing on staff and creating jobs.
You get to the chicken or the egg debate, and here's the problem. There's not demand in our country because people aren't taking the risk and making the investment. People are taking the risk and making the investment around the world. And so companies in my hometown like Caterpillar are seeing growth in demand for their products, their tractors and so on around the world. But the problem is they're hesitant to make the investments in the U.S. factories because they don't know the risks that they're going to be taking with the cost of labor and so on.
Yeah, companies that are innovative and that have good ideas and good products.
It seemed to me that, look, fundamentally, the Republican Party is the party of private enterprise and the Democratic Party is the party of government. They believe in government. But being the party of government at a time when there's an enormous anti-government sentiment in the country, doesn't that make it almost an insoluble problem in the short term for Obama and Democrats?
Well, I think that this genuinely surprised Democrats who thought they won in 2008 because people had a renewed desire for more government. It didn't turn out that way. That was not the mandate of the 2008 election. And I think a lot of these last 2 years, 18 months, has been about trying to reconcile that.
Matt Bai, thank you very much. Representative Aaron Schock, good of you to come back.
Good to be with you again.
Well done.